I hereby, Chairperson, move that notwithstanding Rule 247, subsection 1, which provides that a sitting of the...
Yes, Honourable Member.
Thanks, Deputy Speaker. I hereby move on behalf of the Democratic Alliance that this House knows that over the past weekend, the nation was shocked to learn of the mayor of Bafana Bafana and Orlando Pirates captain Senzo
Members,
conveys our sincere
there is no
condolences
speakers
to
list.
friends, family, supporters,
May
and
I-
teammates of Senzo Meyiwa. Acknowledges that Senzo
May
had a
I
bright
have
future ahead of
indicated-
him, having captained the national team in the last 4 AFCON qualifiers. Recalls that in the last 4 AFCON qualifiers that he has played for Bafana Bafana, he was yet to concede a single goal. Further acknowledges that his untimely death is a great loss for
Position
soccer
is
in South
dealt with
Africa.
in terms of Section 65 of the Constitution. I want to first ascertain that all delegations are in agreement with the proposed amendment. Motion, not amendment. Put differently, Honourable Member, motion agreed to. The motion is agreed to. Thank you, Honourable Members. We can then proceed. Because that then takes care of both motions. We proceed to invite the Honourable Deputy President Honourable Members, I am advised that even though the Chief Whip input in the first motion, she then referred to motion 2 and 3, which is why I was asking whether the motion is agreed to. That we must then take motion 2. Motion 2, if you look at your order papers, Honourable Member, is the motion that asks the House to approve. Chief Whip, do you want to read motion 2 for the record?
I do, Chairperson of Council. Chairperson of Council, August House. I move to this National Council of Province sitting that the Council amends the motion regarding the designation of members to the Southern African Development Community Parliamentary Forum adopted by the House on the 14th of October 2014 by replacing Dr. Hunadi Euphemia Matime with Ms. Tasneem Mutara. I move accordingly, Chairperson.
Thank you, Chief Whip. Honourable Members, may I take you province by province? Eastern Cape?
Eastern Cape accept, Honourable Chairperson.
The Free State? The Free State? We are on motion 2, Honourable Member.
State agrees.
Gauteng?
Gauteng agrees, Honourable Chair.
KwaZulu-Natal?
KwaZulu-Natal agrees, Chairperson.
Limpopo? Mpumalanga?
Mpumalanga agrees to the motion as tabled.
Northern Cape?
Northern Cape agrees, Chair.
The Northwest?
Northwest concurs, Chair.
The Western Cape?
Eastern Cape agrees.
There is agreement on motion 2. Chief Whip, the last motion, please.
Thank you very much, Chairperson of Council. I hereby move that the Council amends the motion regarding the designation of members to the Pan-Africanist Parliament adopted by the House on 24th June 2014 by replacing Inga Palo Jordan with Mr. Charles Ngakula. I move accordingly, Chair.
Thank you, ma'am. Eastern Cape?
Eastern
Free State?
State accept.
Gauteng?
Gauteng accept.
KZN?
KZN agrees, Chairperson.
Limpopo? Mpumalanga,
Mpumalanga iyavuma hle.
Junior Cup,
Northern Cape agrees, Chair.
Northwest,
Northwest accept, Chair.
Western Cape.
Western Cape agrees.
The motions are all agreed to, honorable members. Thank you very much. We proceed to then invite the Honorable Deputy President to respond to the questions from the House. Honorable Deputy President, sir.
Chairperson of the NCOP, honorable members, in relation to the question I've been asked, the South Africa-Nigeria Binational Commission has not yet convened. However, the South African government has, through its High Commissioner in Abuja and the Consul General based in Lagos, engaged continuously with the federal government of Nigeria and the Lagos state government regarding the recent deaths and injuries of South Africans that were caused by the collapse of the house, the guests of the house of the Synagogue Church of All Nations in Nigeria. Department of International Relations and Cooperation is also currently engaging the High Commissioner of Nigeria to South Africa. DNA sampling is currently being carried out by a private laboratory based in Stellenbosch on the mortal remains of the deceased, and once the South African citizens have been identified, their remains will be repatriated to South Africa by the South African government. Many of our people indeed await the return of the mortal remains of the South Africans who perished in that accident. The discussions have largely focused on fast-tracking the return of those injured and the nationals for repatriation. The South African government is not playing any role in the investigations that are currently going on because this matter falls within the Nigerian legal jurisdiction. A coroner has been appointed to investigate the accident, and the inquest, we are told, commenced on the 24th of October, 2014. The South African government has, however, indicated its readiness and willingness to assist with the investigation and can only partake in such investigation if it is invited to do so by the relevant Nigerian authorities. I thank you.
Thank you, Deputy President. The Honorable Mateme, do you have a supplementary?
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Re leboge karabo ye Motlatšamopresidente a re filego yona. Empa re boele re re legatong la badudi ba naga ye. On behalf of the citizens of South Africa, it's only normal and natural that when our loved one pass on, we find closure as quickly as we possibly can. We know the sovereignty of Nigeria as a country is to be respected, Chairperson, but waiting for so long at the same time is becoming very, very difficult. Does the Deputy President have an idea, more or less, how many months, how many weeks, how long exactly is the waiting going to continue, really, so that people who lost their loved ones can find closure? We know South Africa is not involved in the postmortems, etc., but the open channel between the two governments, I think an indication of some sort might be given. The waiting is becoming unbearable. It's becoming unbearable. Can the people out there be given roughly 3 months, 6 months, a year, thereabout.
Honorable Chief Whip, you've made your point.
The-
The Honorable Deputy President.
Thank you, Chairperson. Lesu la batho ba sweleng ko Nigeria le utlwisa batho ba bantši mo South Africa botlhoko. A se batho fela ba maloko a bona a utlwang botlhoko, ka moka na rena re utlwa botlhoko ka ntho e diragetseng. We are all traumatized and troubled as a nation, and this becomes even more so when you're coming to closure and to terms with the departure of your loved one is delayed for so long. And in this regard, the South African government is doing everything it can to make sure that it eases the pain and the heartache of the families and friends of those who are deceased. There is a limit to what we can do because, as I said, this whole process is being handled in accordance with the laws and the jurisdiction of the federal government of Nigeria. We have to wait for that process to be concluded. Our government, and indeed our Department of International Relations, is keeping itself well informed about what is transpiring and happening in Nigeria in relation to the remains of those who have departed being brought back. And I urge all of us to exercise patience, painful as it might be, until this whole process is concluded. What we can be certain of is that the government of the Federal Republic of Nigeria is handling this matter, and we are being kept informed. I'm therefore not able to give time and date of when this will be concluded so that people can have closure. But what is certain is that we are well prepared for the return and repatriation of the remains of those who are deceased. And that we will handle with professionalism, with dignity, and the compassion that it all requires. When they do return, everybody in South Africa will get to know that they are home at last. Thank you.
Thank you, honorable members. Honorable Michaelis, Honorable Khela, Honorable Faba.
Thank you, Honourable Chairperson. Honourable Deputy President, today it is exactly 6 weeks since the tragic story first broke in the South African media, and the mortal remains of those South Africans who perished in the building collapsed have yet to be repatriated to South Africa, as we know. This delay is heart-wrenching for the families and loved ones of the deceased. By contrast, it took the Dutch government only 6 days to repatriate the bodies of the deceased passengers on the Malaysian Airlines flight MH17. The plane crashed on 17 July in Ukraine, a country currently in political turmoil. And by 23 July 2014, the Dutch government had cooperated with the Ukrainian government, negotiated with rebel separatists, and managed to return the bodies of their compatriots to the Netherlands a mere 6 days later. How can it then be, Honourable Deputy President, that the South African government is taking weeks to achieve the same outcome with Nigeria, a supposedly friendly country, when the Dutch government did the same in a matter of days under hostile conditions? Thank you.
Deputy President.
As I indicated, the South African government is involved in the process of making sure that the mortal remains of those who perished in Nigeria are returned home. And every effort is being made to make sure that they are brought back. Now, I think we need to be respectful of the laws and the processes and customs of all countries around the world. And South Africa is not one of those countries that is going to violate the rules, the laws of other countries, and in this case, Nigeria. We are dealing with the Nigerian government on this matter at the highest level, and they have their own laws and their own processes which they have embarked upon, and in terms of embarking on those, they want to be absolutely certain that they comply with their own laws and their own rules, and we are giving them that opportunity. The South African government would not be able just to parachute itself into Nigeria and extricate the mortal remains of those who perished. And so therefore, we are hoping, as I indicated, that this will be resolved as soon as possible. We are following up every activity that is involved in all this, and we are certain that it will be concluded soon. Thank you.
Thank you. The Honorable Khela.
Masibulele sekela mongameli. Nami zoxola emswaneni. Ngokwenyani lisiko labantu abamnyama ubani umuntu makangcwatywe.
Thethele embhobheni tata.
And the more it is delayed, the more it affects the families. Now, my question is one simple one. As a presidency, have they intervened in this matter in a manner in talking to the president of Nigeria so that this can be speeded up? Thank you.
Deputy President.
Yes, at the level of the president, discussions have been held on this, and the minister in the presidency, Minister Jeff Radebe, is involved in that process, and this is quite a high level in our government in terms of handling this, and that is why the president decided that we should have somebody in the presidency who can deal with this matter. All I can assure members is that this matter is being dealt with, and in fact it is being dealt with on a continuous basis. It is for that reason that Minister Jeff Radebe has held continuous press briefings to inform the South African public as well as the families about what the government is doing in ensuring that the mortal remains of those who died in that accident are brought back, and indeed the preparations that are being made to receive them back home. So we will want them to be brought home as soon as possible.
Thank you, Deputy President. The Honorable Faber.
Thanks, Honorable Chair. I would like to know if this delay does not perhaps indicate the South African government's complete lack of influence and goodwill on the African continent.
Honorable Deputy President. Honorable Deputy President.
The South African government continues to enjoy good relations with various countries, and indeed many countries, if not all countries on the African continent. We execute our relationships on the basis of mutual beneficial advancement of our interests, and in doing so, we are acutely aware that we should respect other countries, we should treat them as well as we want to be treated, we should be courteous and cordial to them, and this we do hoping and knowing that we will be able to continue enjoying good relations in everything that we do with them. And if you look at our foreign policy, you will find that South Africa is involved in a number of activities on the African continent, both to advance the whole concept of the African Renaissance and also to advance our own interests, but more importantly, to ensure that we advance the unity and the development of the African continent. And this we do in total partnership with other countries. And we therefore, as we execute this policy approach, cannot and will not seek to override or undermine any country that we have dealings with.
Thank you, Deputy President. Members, that puts paid to the first question. We proceed to the second question by Mr. D.L. Klimbi, the Honorable to the Deputy President.
There's a hand.
Honorable Labuskaghni.
Chair, on a point of order, according to Rule 2463, this question has more than 5 subsections and actually should have referred to as a written question and not an oral question as been done in previous sessions.
The question before me has 4 subsections. Honorable Deputy President, please proceed to respond to the question. Order, members.
Regarding question 8, honorable members, government has undertaken various studies done on crime, its causes and its effects. However, there has been no study done by government that directly explores the link between crime and social cohesion. Still, it is common cause that crime has a negative impact on social cohesion. It contributes to mistrust. It also promotes fear and reduces beneficial interaction across historical boundary of race, gender, and class. At the same time, a lack of social cohesion contributes to high rates of crime. As we know, criminal activity is able to flourish where bonds of social solidarity are weak and a sense of community becomes deficient. We are therefore called upon both to fight crime and promote greater social cohesion. If we embrace a sense of mutual obligation and accept responsibility for our actions, then we will have more cooperative communities, communities where people pick up litter like they do in a place like Attridgeville, which I visited recently, where they successfully embarked on a campaign which they call Topa Pampiri. Batho ba ko Attridgeville ba topa pampiri ha ba e bona mo ditrateng tsa bona mo ba dulang mo teng. Attridgeville stands out as a great example for many, many areas where our people live. And I hope that one day we will all be able to emulate the people of Attridgeville in terms of cleaning our townships, cleaning our towns, and the places where we live in. And we will then also have, in addition to more cooperative communities, people who vote in their municipal election, people who donate blood or assist those in greater need. Honorable members, the Interministerial Committee on Alcohol and Drug Abuse has worked on policies, has also worked on laws and strategies that seek to reduce the supply and demand for alcohol and illicit drugs. Extensive work is also being done to improve treatment of addiction and other harm reduction programs. Drug and alcohol abuse is ultimately a social issue. Government can coordinate efforts and provide resources, but this problem will only be addressed if all of us as South Africans are actively involved. In promoting social cohesion in South Africa, we need to overcome the barriers of the past. The past apartheid government sought the physical, economic, and social separation of our people in South Africa through laws such as the Prohibition of Mixed Marriages Act, the Group Areas Act, the Natives Urban Areas Act, and the Reservation of Separate Amenities Act. Access to public resources and services was, as we all know, determined by race. Government has created an environment for greater social cohesion through the repeal of all these terrible laws, the adoption of our new constitution with a Bill of Rights in which all are equal before the law, and by redressing the disparities in the provision of public services. Much more needs to be done. There are still great divisions within our society, and we need to work together to overcome these historical divisions. Under the leadership of Father Smangaliso Mkachwa, the moral regeneration movement can count a number of achievements. July has been declared as the Moral Regeneration Month in our country. A moral regeneration movement charter of positive values was formulated and adopted by all parties. It is premised on our Constitution, and it is also informed by the spirit of Ubuntu. In line with the medium-term strategic framework, Outcome 14, this charter is being further popularized. Moral Regeneration Movement School Project was launched in the year 2011. It aims to address issues such as general ill discipline in our schools,
Honourable Chairperson, with all due respect, Deputy President, on a point of order, I would like to refer you to Rule 247, Sub-Rule 2. It's not the Deputy President's fault, perhaps. It's perhaps because of the long question with the 4 subsections. But I would just like to refer you to Rule 247.2, which says that the reply has to be within 5 minutes. With all due respect, Mr. Deputy President.
Thank you very much, Mr. Honorable Michelaikos. The question is within the rules. It has 4 subsections. That's the first point. The second point is that the honorable member also knows the rules. It does give the presiding officer the discretion. Please finish your response, Deputy President.
The Moral Regeneration Movement Project Schools was launched, as I was saying, in 2011. It aims to address issues such as ill discipline in schools, teenage pregnancies, violence in schools, lack of commitment from teachers, and the absence of ethical leadership in schools. The Moral Regeneration Movement further says that through its Charter of Election Ethics, which was launched in the 25th of February 2011, that it would seek to have partnership with the SABC and the IEC. Outcome 3 of the MTSF deals with the reduction of crime. It requires the implementation of strategies in the following areas by 2018 to 19. Integrated crime prevention and combating, visible policing, public order, community policing, rural safety, intelligence-led policing, crime detection. Again, these efforts will only be effective if all individuals and organizations in society work together to achieve these objectives. Chairperson, thank you, and honorable members, I thank you.
Thank you, Deputy President. The Honorable Tumbi, do you have a supplementary?
Thank you, Chairperson. Thank you, Honorable Deputy President. I'm happy about your answers, Honorable Deputy President. But through you, Chairperson, allow me to pass our condolences to the family of Senzo Maliwa and all South Africans for the loss of his life because of the violence and crime we are talking about today. Honorable Deputy President, our people outside there, they said we are putting strategies, but we don't implement those strategies. I'm happy that today you are talking about what you are doing. I'm happy about your strategy, Deputy President. Qinisekile nabantu bethu bayayibona intshukumo nangona ifuna into kokuba sisebenzisane simonitorishe ukuthi iyaya kuzo zonke ikona zomzantsi Afrika. Ndiyabulela kakhulu, Deputy President. Masiqhubeleke sincedisane nathi sakuncedisa. Nkosi.
Deputy President.
Siyabulela, sizayenza njalo, siqhubeke, sisebenze yonke lengxaki ye-crime ekhona apha eMzantsi Afrika. Eyona into efunekayo ukuthi sisebenzisane sonke, sidibanise izandla, sibambisane, size siyigqibe into ye-crime apha eMzantsi Afrika. I also want to say that as the government of South Africa, and indeed many statements have been issued in this regard, we also pass our condolences to the family of Senzo Meyiwa, and indeed to the fans of football and his club as well. Everybody in our country is saddened by his untimely death. This is a death that should not have happened, and we are deeply, deeply sorry, and we are robbed of a great talent that could have made our nation proud over the next few years. Thank you for raising it. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy President. The Honorable Kaula. Is there any other supplementary? The Honorable Dlamini, the Honorable Masango. The Honorable Kaula first, ma'am. You will follow the Honorable Kaula, Medlamini. Honorable Masango is the fourth.
Ngiyathokoza sihlalo hloniphekile. Ngithokoze kumhlonishwa iphini likamongameli wezwe. Honorable Deputy President, I want to agree with the sentiments that you have raised in respect of the barriers of the past that need to be breached in respect of responsibility for our actions, in respect of, amongst other things, the divisions in our societies, and especially the spirit of Ubuntu that we need to promote among our communities. But when it comes to the matters of social cohesion and moral regeneration, what I want to find out is what more is government doing to ensure that what we have seen in the past does not happen. For example, when we have got our national days where government money gets spent to bring people together to celebrate South Africa, we have noticed that some of these days are turned by other people into political rallies of other parties, where other leaders of other parties sometimes get booed. And all those things happen which I think are not in line with the spirit of Ubuntu and are not serving the objective of social cohesion. So what I want to find out is for the future, what is government doing? Because even in the future, we do still need to see these activities taking place. We do need to see government promoting social cohesion, but in doing so, there must be no negatives. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Kaula. Honorable Deputy President.
Ngiyabonga mhlonishwa. Government will continue to encourage all South Africans to participate in national events that seek to promote our unity as a nation, our oneness as South Africans, because those events tend to promote social cohesion. We have seen the past few events that have taken place where the government held events throughout the country, nationally and in provinces, how enthusiastically those were welcomed by ordinary citizens of our country. And indeed, with regard to participation, we would like those days to be regarded as days where all South Africans have the freedom, the opportunity, and the right to participate in, and not to participate on a party political basis. The only basis they should participate in those events should be because they are South Africans, and they are there to promote our cohesiveness as a nation, our unity as South Africans, and to subscribe to the values that we subscribe in. And one of those key values and principles is tolerance. Tolerance of one another, no matter what it is that may be of a difference between us. We should be able to tolerate each other and not let any of the differences that we might have, be they gender, be they race, be they origin of region, be they political party, be a factor that divides us. And if at any of those events there should be any derisive remarks that are made against anyone or booing, it behoves on the leadership to discourage people from doing so and to preach a message of unity, a message of tolerance of one another, a message of inclusiveness, and a message of appreciation of the diversity that we all should respect and enjoy as South Africans. So it is something that we will want to keep promoting so that the fault lines that we might have as people who are being forged into a cohesive nation should disappear more and more. And some of those things that you're talking about are indeed things and steps that we should take to make sure that we remain united as South Africans, because what unites us is much more important than what divides us. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy President. The Honorable Dlamini.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. Angivusele kumhlonishwa usekela mangameli we-country. In 2001, the current government approved a national crime prevention strategy, which is more on prevention of crime and dealing more on the root causes of crime as compared to law and order during the apartheid government. There are 4 pillars in that strategy: transnational crime, environmental design, criminal justice, and community values and education. The last pillar suggests that there is a need for community involvement in prevention of crime, because some crimes happens behind doors where police cannot access. What is your comment on that statement, Honorable Deputy President?
Deputy President. Thank you, ma'am.
Ngiyabonga. The National Crime Prevention Strategy remains relevant to this day, particularly the pillar that talks about community involvement. It is important that we strengthen community involvement in relation to fighting crime in our country. Crime can largely be defeated through the involvement of communities, particularly when it comes to various forums that have been set up. The community policing forums are very important structures that enable our people to actively get involved in measures that are meant to fight crime. And in fact, it is a very empowering type of structure that empowers the community to deal with police officers without any fear, without fearing any intimidation. They are able to deal with them on a cooperative basis where the police officers and members of the community meet in a structure like that, discuss the causes of crime in whatever area, and find strategies and ways of preventing and combating crime. So we place a great deal of emphasis on community involvement in many things, but it becomes even more relevant when we have to deal with combating and fighting crime. So you couldn't be more correct in highlighting the issue of combating crime as you went through the various strategies that have been agreed to in relation to fighting crime. So this is very much supported by the government. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy President. The Honorable Masango.
Thank you, Chair. Honorable Deputy President, the recently released 2013-2014 crime statistics have shown an increase in the prevalence of murder, attempted murder, aggravated robbery, theft out of motor vehicles, car hijackings, and given the moral regeneration movement's stated mission of initiating, facilitating, and coordinating societal networks and programs to regenerate and preserve our nation's moral fiber, can it be honestly said that the moral regeneration movement is having any impact in this regard, or should we consider other initiatives which could have a real impact on our society? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, ma'am. Honorable Deputy President.
I can honestly say that the moral regeneration movement is making a very positive contribution to highlighting what we need to do to move forward with the moral regeneration in our nation. And it has embarked on a number of programs and initiatives, some of which even go to the level of schools, young people, and these are important efforts to generate high moral values in our society. This is not going to be an easy process. It is a process that will take time, but it's also a process that we should not abandon. We should activate all our people to be part of a process like this, because we need to do everything, and we need to utilize every strategy to reduce the level and the incidence of crime in our society. Crime has many causes, and as a result, we need to utilize as many strategies and as many initiatives as we possibly can, and the moral regeneration one is but one that we should utilize. So I would not say we should abandon it. Is it having an impact? I would say yes, it is having an impact, just as many other strategies and initiatives that we are utilizing are having an impact. And so therefore, we must use a multi-pronged approach to combating crime. We cannot rely just on one. Every approach needs to be utilized, and indeed, every South African should become involved in combating crime. It cannot be fought by the police only. It requires all of us utilizing all our structures and institutions to fight and combat crime. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy President. Members, that takes care of the question and responses to question 8. We move on to question 9, which was posed by the Honorable Mohapi. Deputy President, Honorable Mohapi has replaced me at a meeting, so he's not in the House, but his party has made arrangements. We proceed to question 9.
Thank you, Chairperson. Honorable members, the increase in the number of service delivery protests and their often violent nature is of serious concern to government. Of particular concern are protests that lead to loss of life, the disruption of schooling, and the destruction of government buildings, community assets such as libraries and clinics. 5 provinces, Gauteng, Eastern Cape, KwaZulu-Natal, Western Cape, and Northwest, account for some 84% of all these protests in 2014. That is a very, very high number. Protests are thus spread across the country in both more urbanized and less urbanized provinces. It is hard to correctly analyze the nature of protests because many of them are contextual. However, the common denominator in all this is that there is significant dissatisfaction amongst our people in their various communities with both the functioning and the way in which municipalities are managed. To this end, the Department of Cooperative Governance has undertaken an assessment of municipalities in all the 9 provinces. This revealed that just under a third of municipalities are not performing well on a number of fronts and areas, while a further third are at risk. The Back to Basics program of action that was recently unveiled by the Minister of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs, Mr. Pravin Gordhan, is intended to get municipalities to serve their communities better and also themselves to function a lot better. To get municipalities to serve communities better, government expects municipalities to demonstrate good governance, to be responsive administrations, to have sound financial management, to take action against corruption, and substantiate or increase community involvement. The details of this plan have been communicated to all municipal mayors and senior managers across the country. It has been made clear to the political leadership and officials in all municipalities that government expects no service failures, but where these occur, government expects the services to be restored as soon as possible and on an urgent basis. The Department of Cooperative Governance, together with its provincial counterparts, will be closely monitoring the implementation of the Back to Basics program of action by municipalities. I thank you.
Thank you, Deputy President. I've got the Honorable Kaula, Honorable Chetty, Honorable Vauda, Honorable Dlamini.
Chairperson, can I first remind the chairperson that the person who asked the question has not yet done the follow-up?
Yes, at the beginning of the question, I did indicate that the Honorable Mohapi is attending a meeting on my behalf. And I think Ms. Dlamini will fill that space. That is why I went straight into the supplementaries, and you are the first on the supplementaries.
Ngithokoze sihlalo hloniphekile ngiphinde ngithokoze hlonishwa iphini lika Mengameli. The Honorable Deputy President is ascribing 80% plus minus of the service protests to local government. And of course, all of us have seen that there is a lot that needs to be attended to in respect of how local government is servicing our people in the country. My question, Chairperson, is in respect of the intergovernmental relations which should be taking place between local, provincial, and national, then doesn't the Honorable Deputy President think that a lot more can also be done in terms of assisting local government? But secondly, to say, doesn't the failure of local government also reflect the failure of government in South Africa?
Deputy President.
Thank you. And indeed, a lot can be done to assist local government in dealing with the many challenges that they face. The assessment that was done by the Minister, Kokta, was with a view of determining the extent to which local governments in our country face challenges. And in doing this, the Minister and his team had in mind that we need to do much more to give assistance to local government as the national government and to be as supportive as possible. And to this end, national and provincial government will be working hand in glove with local government to give as much assistance to the 2/3 of municipalities that do need assistance and support. And indeed, the 1/3 that's functioning well will continue also to need the support that is required and the monitoring and evaluation that they can benefit a great deal from. So all that, when it happens, as it will happen, is going to lead to the improvement of local government governance, and it will consequently lead to the improvement of service delivery. And indeed, could more have been done? Yes, the answer has to be. Much more should have been done, and indeed, we are going to be doing much more. In fact, the 1/3 that is doing well largely because they've also been keenly supported by national government. So national government has not been sitting on its laurels and not interacting and interfacing with local government. It's been giving as much assistance as it possibly can. So all of us, through structures, both at national, provincial, and local government level, we can do much more. And it's not a time to sit back and point fingers and blame each other. It is a time to get down to work and improve what needs to be improved. It is time to work, and the Minister of Kokta is doing precisely that. We were very, very impressed with the report that came out that actually launched a campaign back to basics. That is what we are seeking to do. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy President. The Honorable Chetty.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. Honorable Deputy President, in 2013 alone, there were 287 service delivery protests across South Africa. Does the Honorable Deputy President agree with the Minister of Kokta that part of the reasons for this is a lack of skills at local government? For example, of the 278 municipalities in South Africa, 170 of these have employed CFOs who are wholly unqualified to hold this position. This further indicating that the deployment of incompetent cadres to senior positions has failed both our communities and service delivery. How serious is government in dealing with this corruption, as it is action, not words, that will eventually have an impact? Thank you, Deputy President.
Thank you, sir. Honorable Deputy President.
The results of the assessment that have been done by the Minister have revealed that there are a number of weaknesses in all municipalities, particularly in the 2/3 municipalities of those 278 municipalities we have. And the reasons range from not having proper governance structures, financial management, and not having properly trained people in various positions, and many others. And all these are being looked at, and they are being properly scrutinized. The good thing is we now have a proper assessment that gives us good information on what needs to be done. And is government serious in addressing all these problems? The answer is yes. Government is serious in addressing the problems and the challenges, be they of a corruption nature, be they of a skills shortage nature, or a skills misfit nature, be they of weak financial management. We will be addressing all those. And the minister, having identified all these weaknesses, is addressing them. And the good thing is that he's been moving from municipality to municipality. In fact, you may want to know that he visited many of these municipalities personally with his officials and was able to devote time in discussing all these challenges and problems with many of them. And I have no doubt whatsoever that having done this assessment, we will now be able, through the more or less diagnostic study that we've done, be able to come up with strategies that will address all these problems that our municipalities face. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. The Honorable Vouder.
Thank you, Chairperson. Honorable Chairperson, in South Africa we have a very huge discrepancy, socio-economic discrepancy between rich and poor. This is contributing to a large extent to the general civil unrest that we are seeing increasing all the time in South Africa. This is also contributing to the crime rate in this country. Now, to redress this issue within the confines of the present socio-economic systems is going to be very unlikely within the reasonable confines of human patience. And this is going to result in increasing unrest and increasing stability in this country. So what we are asking is, what plans does the government have to implement necessary legislation that will redress this situation reasonably? And we are thinking specifically here of legislation regarding the increase in salaries of the working population, but also legislation regarding the nationalization of mines and also the expropriation of land. Thank you, Chairperson.
Honorable Vouder, the last sting of the question is not really related to the question. I am sure, however, that the Deputy President will be within his rights to respond or not respond.
Thank you, Chairperson. And I notice the honorable member raised his hand in salute and he gave me a naughty laugh. And I thought that he was not quite serious with the last part of his question. So I will defer to that. But in terms of, is national legislation something that could be introduced to increase the wages or the income of the population of working people? As you know, the President, in his State of the Nation address, said that we needed to start looking at income inequality in our country, and against the backdrop of looking at our, say, labor relations generally, but he specifically focused on the issue of income inequality. And in this regard, he then asked the Deputy President to start a process of social dialogue amongst social partners to look at the issue of the national minimum wage. That is an issue that is currently being addressed. We are going to be holding an indaba at the NEDLEC level where the social partners, business, trade unions, government, as well as communities are going to get together soon, at the beginning of November, to address this issue and to work out a process of how we are going to arrive at strategies and processes that could lead to reducing income inequality. So in part, we would probably be addressing the type of issue that you are raising. And as you correctly say, These are difficult economic times that we live in, and which bring a lot of stress and burdens to many working people in our country. So that will in part be addressing issues like that. And thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. The Honorable Dlamini.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. Honorable Deputy President, would you agree with me if I say some of the protests are political in nature? If you look at the trend, we have more protests towards the elections. It's either local government or national, provincial government elections. We have more protests towards that. And there are political parties who are openly saying we are a protest organization. And also, would you also agree with me if I say some protests is because of the service delivery that municipalities are providing? Those communities who feel that they are not catered and see development happening on the neighbor, yet they're still waiting. Those protests, for me, they are good because they are saying do it faster because something is happening. Kunesisho ngeSiswati lesithi tinja tikhongotsa imoto lemile, tikhongotsa imoto lehambako. Ngiyabonga.
Thank you, ma'am. Deputy President.
Nyalo. Itinja tikhonkotha imoto ehambayo, atikhonkotha imoto emile. Kunjalo. Ma itinja tibona imoto, ma igijima ehamba, titayilandela. Tikhonkotha. Futhi tikhonkotha kakhulu ma igijima ngempela ihamba ngespeed esiphezulu. Tinjalo ke itinja. So our people, in seeing that other people
Honorable
are getting...
Kaula, is that a point of order?
Yes, point of order, Honorable Chairperson. I just want to know from the Honorable Deputy President, in the case of people in protest, which one is dog, which one is car?
Deputy President, Honorable Kaula, thanks for the lighter moment. Please proceed, sir.
Mhlonishwa akuqalanga mina. Ngifuna ukuyicacisa lento ayiqalwanga yimi leyo. Ngithemba ukuthi kungcono umbuze umhlonishwa ukuthi yena uma ethi itinja nemoto wayethi abantu abaphi itinja etiphi. Kodwa ke ngokubona kwami abantu itimoto. Yes, indeed, as people, our people see development and service delivery happening to other people in other communities, they, as the President did say in his State of the Nation address a while ago, that our people who feel that they have not received any service delivery or development are the ones who get agitated because they feel that they are being left out. And the President did say that sisendleleni siyeza nakini, we are also coming with developmental projects and processes to you as well. So that clearly has to be the answer. I think in the end what we want to see is speeding up service delivery so that our people do not lose confidence and they do not lose patience. But as we all know, delivery and development is a process that takes time in terms of planning, takes time in terms of finding the necessary resources and the necessary skilled people who can execute these. And the government is very keenly aware of all that and is putting everything in place to make sure that we do indeed deliver, and as we deliver, we do it as speedily and as cost-effectively as possible. So we will continue on this part so that our people can feel that they are not being left out. We will be addressing this in a determined way going forward, because everything that is good should happen to the benefit of all our people. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy President. Deputy President, we proceed to question number 10. It is the question from the Honorable Van Lingen.
Thank you, Chairperson. Honorable members, all members of the Executive remain committed to fulfill all parliamentary obligations, including responding to both oral and written parliamentary questions. And in my capacity as leader of government business, I will continue, as I do, to ensure government's legislative program is dealt with efficiently and effectively, and that cabinet ministers fulfill their obligations to Parliament. I thank you.
Thank you. The Honorable Van Lingen.
Honorable Chairperson, as you know and will recall, on the 19th of September, I wrote to you a letter protesting against the absence of the Minister of Social Development, who was in the House on the 16th of September in the NA, rather than answering her questions here in our House and be available to the members of the National Council of Provinces. Furthermore, on the 14th of October, the Minister of Women in the Presidency was absent from the oral question session in this House because she had given a written replies to the Minister of Public Service and Administration to read out, thereby completely frustrating the questions process and disrespecting the rules and the members of this House. Honourable Chairperson, will the Honourable Deputy President please assure this House that whatever measures and promises you have made, action will be taken against the Minister of Social Development and the Minister of Women? And are you, Honourable Deputy President, prepared to report back to us on the progress and actions you've implemented? Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Van Lingen. Honourable Deputy President, before you respond, it is true that when we had question time in the House, the Minister of Social Development had tabled an apology with the NCOP and stated reasons which the House was informed about. She had then indicated that her Deputy Minister would be in the House. The Deputy Minister did not show up in the House. The Honourable Van Lingen, at the close of that sitting, raised the matter of the Minister. We have had a meeting, Honourable Van Lingen, with the respectful Minister. We have received an explanation. We have also raised the matter with the leadership that is supposed to deal directly with the Minister. So the matter has not been raised and been allowed to go down the cracks. As for the Minister responsible for women, the ministers are able, if they cannot be replaced by their deputies, to respond in the House, honourable members. They can make arrangements with other members of cabinet to come and respond on their behalf. And that is exactly what the Honourable Shabangu did on that date. I think the Deputy President can then respond on the other matters that the Honourable Van Lingen responded to.
Thank you, Chairperson, for giving the background to this. As I said, in the execution of my task as leader of government business, I will continue to ensure that government's legislative program is dealt with efficiently and effectively, and that all members of the executive fulfill their obligations. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy President. The Honourable Makwe, Honourable Vauda, the Honourable Zwane.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Honourable Deputy Minister, sorry,
Deputy President, sir.
Don't worry, it's the same thing.
My apologies,
We're
sir.
all deputies.
The difference with you is, however, that you have very early in our democracy played a pivotal role in the constitution and the parliamentary dispensation that we are presently exercising. And many of us have come to learn that the select committees and also the portfolio committees are very meaningful institutions of this parliament through which we can engage also with the executive, but particularly with the departments. My question, therefore, to you would be that when you were busy in putting the Constitution together, did you also consider the select committees and portfolio committees to be the fora through which we could engage with the members of the executive as ordinary members of this parliament? Thank you, sir.
Deputy President?
The answer is simple, yes. Thank you, Chairperson.
The Honourable Voda?
Thank you, Honourable Chair. Honourable Deputy President, what, in your understanding, is the significance of these oral questions sessions? And in entrenching democracy and accountability, what role are these question sessions playing? If they are significant, do you think it is in the best interest of our democracy that the ruling party uses its majority to stifle debate and hide corruption by preventing the cabinet and the executive from answering tough questions? And this time, I'm not saluting or smiling. Thank you, Deputy.
Honourable Voda? We do not want to stifle any debate, so I'm going to leave the Deputy President to respond.
Thank you.
Your second sub-question, though, seems to be relevant to the principal question. Honourable Deputy President.
Yes. Answering or appearing before members in the NCOP and indeed in the Assembly to answer questions is significant. It is an important aspect of our democracy that enables members of the executive not only to impart information on issues that members may well want some answers on, but to be accountable. Our accountability is indeed to Parliament and generally to our people as a whole. So our appearance here is significant, and it is something that is very important that we should find time and ways, everything being equal, to exercise. With regard to the second part of the question, Chairperson, you've ruled that it is irrelevant, and I would tend to say your ruling is what I will abide by, and thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. The Honourable Zwane.
Thank you, Chairperson. Mine is not a question, as it were, but it is rather a comment. As to say that as
Honourable
this council...
Zwane, you can use a comment to ask a supplementary question, but the rule does not say that members can stand up on the floor and make comments during question time.
Make it a question.
Okay, it is going to be a question.
Yes.
Angithathi ithuba sihlalo lokubonga kakhulu kusekela mongameli wezwe wombuso waseNingizimu neAfrika ngomsebenzi omuhle awenzayo. Ukuqikelela ukuthi executive authority iyeza la kwi-council izophendula imibuzo. Lokho akusizi nje kuphela ngokuthi executive authority sihlalo i-accounta, kodwa kusiza ngokuthi umphakathi uyakhanyiseleka ezinye izinto umphakathi ongakwazi ukufinyelela kwi-executive authority ngqo. Ngalokho kusho ke sihlalo ngifuna ukuthi kusekela mongameli umsebenzi wakhe owenza kahle. Ngifisa ukwazi ke sekela mongameli ukuthi ikhona yini inkinga ekuthenini uhulumeni ophethe aluqhube lolu hlelo njengoba liqhubeka uma abanye kulendlu bene feeling yokuthi lusetshenziswa umbuso ophethe ukufeza injongo. Ikhona inkinga Deputy President ngokubuka kwakho kuthenini ongqongqoshe beze bazophendula kulendlu. Ngiyabonga sihlalo.
Siyabonga ma'am. Deputy President.
Ngiyabonga. Ngizophendula ngokuthi ayikho inkinga. Ngempela ayikho inkinga ngoba ongqongqoshe bayazinika ithuba lokuthi beze la bazophendula imibuzo. Ukwenzela ukuthi bakwazi ukuthi bacacise kahle yonke into ababuzwa yona. Hayi kumalungu e-NCOP kuphela. Empeleni futhi kumphakathi. Ngoba sinethemba ukuthi umphakathi nawo uyathanda ukuzwa kahle ukuthi ongqongqoshe izinto abanikwe zona umongameli baziqhuba kanjani. Na yonke leyo nto ebuzwa la ukuthi ingaphendulwa kanjani na. So there is really no problem for members of the executive to come here and answer questions. All things being equal, time and everything else as arrangements can be made. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy President. Honorable members, the question 10 has been dealt with. We move on to question 11 as posed by the Honorable Khayla. Deputy President.
Chairperson, honorable members, South Africa is committed to the promotion of human rights and democracy in our region, in our continent, and across the world. As a country, South Africa respects the sovereignty of all countries and only intervenes under the auspices of multinational institutions like SADC, the AU, or indeed the United Nations. In the case of Swaziland, our government does enjoy and, or rather, does engage the government of the Kingdom of Swaziland on a number of bilateral issues, including issues of political freedoms. Bilateral relations between South Africa and Swaziland are cordial and are informed by historical bonds, cultural affinities, economic interests, and geographical proximity. Structured bilateral relations between the two countries are conducted under the framework of the Joint Bilateral Commission of Cooperation, the JBCC. This framework, signed in Swaziland on 20th December 2004, seeks to promote political, economic, and social cooperation between South Africa and Swaziland. As a consequence, the two countries have concluded over the years bilateral agreements and memoranda of understanding to enhance sectoral cooperation between the two countries. On the area of managing natural resources, including water, our cooperation is underpinned by the Republic of South Africa and the Kingdom of Swaziland Memorandum of Understanding of 23rd July 2010 on the sharing of water resources between borders shared by the two countries. With regards to addressing water challenges in the Nkomazi local municipality, the South African and Swaziland established, or South Africa and Swaziland established a joint water commission in 1992 for the building of NCOP Dam. The dam is also managed by the two countries with the assistance of the Komati Basin Water Authority, which is a cross-border company formed by the two countries. Part of the water supplied to Nkomazi municipality comes from the NCOP Dam. Most of the water-related challenges in the municipality are a result of infrastructure that is aging, thus resulting in the inadequate supply of water to the communities concerned. The Municipal Water Infrastructure Grant aims to assist with the refurbishment of this infrastructure to ensure that these challenges are overcome. I thank you.
Thank you, Deputy President. The Honorable Khele.
No, Sekela Mongameli. Mandibulele. Do nilisekele impendulo yakho. Kodwa ke le ngxaki yamanzi kwezadolophi siyazi bana ukumkane kwaseSwazini kunamanzi amaningi. Kuyafuneka urhulumente angathi uyakhaleza. Abantu abazusoke bexelela bana kufe infrastructure. Infrastructure ubana kukho maintenance plan ayimelela ngubani yaphelelwa. So ithetha bana ingxaki ikhona apha kwi-maintenance plan karhulumente. So as a government you need to address it, because we cannot always be told of infrastructure that's decaying. It's totally out. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Honorable Deputy President.
Siyabulela. Inyani ukuthi banamanzi amaninzi. Kodwa ke sifanele ukuthi sisebenzisane nabo kakuhle ukuthi le ngxaki enje ikwazi ukuxazululwa kakuhle. We are taking steps, having identified the source of the problem, to address this problem, to make sure that the infrastructure that is aging is replaced, is refurbished, it's created anew. That we are doing with a view to addressing the current challenges. Now, iyevakala lento ukuthi lo msebenzi ungathathi ixesha elide. Abantu bangxamile bafuna ukuthi lo msebenzi wenzwe masinya ugqitshwe ukuthi abantu bazokwazi ukufumana amanzi. Sikuleyo ndlela nathi sifuna ukuthi lo msebenzi ugqitshwe masinyane ukuze sisolve onke lama problem. Umphakathi kudala ulinde ukuthi le problem ixazululwe, and sizawenza njalo sivile. Ndiyabulela. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy President. Members, the Honorable Mitileni, the Honorable Lond.
Thanks. Tatana Ramaphosa, Deputy President, Natambutsa is Changan. Lo menga shitun tatlenimi tolokela.
Na shitwa kahle.
Na shitwa kahle.
Nishitwa kwatsi.
Nila kwenda follow up lanwani hi issue ya litigation. Hi timhaka human resource dispute hi timhaka ta mati. Kuna mamiliyoni mo hlaya lama ku fika sweswi ma nga lahleka, Deputy President. Hi timhaka ta ku va ku fanele ku kokiwa mati ma suka eNandoni ma ya eGiyani. loko mo langusa sweswiwani problem leyi nga kona kontraka leyi a yi tirha a yi ku tirhi tikontraka to hundza tinharhu ene sweswiwani mitirho leyi a ya ha ri ku yeni emahlweni and loko hi landzelerisa ku na mamiliyoni mo hlaya ma nga humesiwa lahaya ni nga ta vutisa ku ri hi mhaka ya ku va vanhu va le Giyani va nyikiwa mati mo suka anandoni ma ya le Giyani mi tiva yini kumbe sweswiwani ofisi ya n'wina le ku endleni ka yini hi mhaka liya inkomo.
The Honorable Mitileni, the question has to do with litigation matters on water and not specifically on the provision, and does not arise from the responses that the Deputy President has put. Deputy President, you speak fluenter than I in yes, but I'm going to leave it to you. It is a new question. I would have appreciated the Honorable Mitileni to put that question to the Deputy President as a new question, because it deals with a completely different aspect of water provision. But I am leaving it to the Deputy President to use his discretion to respond to it.
Thank you, Nkenzile. Sasweswi ai kari bula ile yale nkomazi. Manje le yale nandoni, le Limpopo, na kurikuva na mati le Giyani, yin'wana, xivutiso xin'wana. A ni swi tivi hi ku tala, so ni nge ringeti swa sweswi ku ri ni hlamula hi ku ni ze ni swi twa ni kombela ku ri ni va ni byela kahle ku ri ku endleka yini hi mati lawa a fanele ku ri a huma nandoni a ya le Giyani na ku ri kontraki ya kona i yime kwihi. Leswi swa ku lahleka ka timiliyoni na timiliyoni a ni nga swi tivi, i swilo leswi i nga endlaka ku ri hi swi languta kahle. A ni ta kombela ku ri kumbexani mi nyika nkarhi hi swi langutisisa kahle, i ta mi rhumela answer ya kona leyi hinkwayo loko mi swi lava. Ni kombela tani. Inkomu. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The Honorable Lond.
Thank you. Following the Honourable Deputy President's response to the first part of the question, specific reference to the part of ensuring that democracy prevails and that the democratic wishes of voters are respected and that there should be political tolerance amongst political formations, does the Honourable Deputy President agree that the will of the majority of voters, whether in another country, our own country, our provinces, municipalities, and even wards must be respected, and whether, if there's a change, that this happens through, whether a change happens by the vote, the choice of the voters, whether this change happens through national, provincial, local government, or by-election elections, be respected.
Deputy President.
The question is a fairly straightforward one. It relates to how democracy should be exercised at both national, provincial, and local government level. And I believe that as Democrats, we all subscribe to those principles. And indeed, we all want those principles to be exercised, particularly in relation and in accordance with the laws of the land, the Constitution, and they should be all to advance the rule of law. So the answer to that has to be yes in that context. Thank you.
Thank you very much, honorable members. We proceed to the last question for today, and it is question number 12, posed by the Honorable Mateis.
Thank you, Chairperson, honorable members. Tax evasion, base erosion, and price fixing, as contemplated, are three different concepts, but they have the same consequence: reduction, deferment, or elimination of a tax liability. The government, through the National Treasury, the South African Reserve Bank, and the South African Revenue Services, works continuously to ensure that the South African tax base is protected. Over the past year, National Treasury introduced several proposals to counter base erosion across a multitude of tax types. As part of their routine activities, SARS and the South African Reserve Bank continually assess taxpayers and significant financial transactions to ensure compliance with their relevant laws. The Reserve Bank and SARS work closely together to monitor capital flow movements. Ongoing interaction between the two institutions means that attempts by non-compliant taxpayers to move capital offshore are reduced. SARS, as the administrator of the tax and custom laws, works towards driving compliance through intense audit activity. In working around the audit capacity constraints, SARS has adopted a risk-based targeted approach to auditing large corporations. On transfer pricing specifically, the tax laws currently provide for rules to adjust the taxable income of a taxpayer where the commissioner is satisfied that a transaction between connected parties was not done at arm's length basis or on an arm's length basis. At a more strategic level, National Treasury and SARS are also working closely with the Davis Commission to ensure a thorough review of the current tax policy and legislative framework. With respect to the said company, Section 69 of Chapter 6 of the Tax Administration Act 2011 provides for the confidentiality of taxpayer information held by SARS and prohibits the disclosure of taxpayer information by SARS except in narrowly defined cases. These cases include disclosure to the South African Police Service, the National Prosecuting Authority, related to tax offenses by order of a high court or with the written consent of the taxpayer concerned. I've been informed by the Minister of Economic Development that according to the records of the Competition Commission, which falls under his purview, there has not been a price-fixing matter involving the said company. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy President. The Honourable Mates. Do you want to do a supplementary? Can we give Ms.
Yeah.
He's going to do our follow-up.
Okay, Honourable Mitileni. The Honourable Mates has given over her supplementary to a member of her party, the Honourable Mitileni.
Thanks a lot. Honourable Deputy President, this time Ntambutsa Shilungu. In your response to our question in August, you said that, and I quote, tax evasion is not only a crime against the state, it is also a crime against the people of our country, ordinary people, and that multinational corporations minimize their corporate tax bills by shifting profits to low tax operations where there is little or no genuine activity. In the same response you gave, Mr. Deputy President, you also said that there is no need for intervention because we have institutions equal to the challenge. But you were only too quick to intervene in the Marikana issue. If that is not hypocritical, then we do not know what hypocrisy is. My question to you, Mr. Deputy President, how do you then explain to South Africa that you yourself benefited from this criminal practice against the people of South Africa through your involvement with Lone Me?
Honourable Mitileni.
I say this.
Honourable Mitileni, you are pushing us to the limits. You are You have long left the question. Firstly, the question has to do with tax evasion. That has been responded to. You are supposed to deal with a supplementary. You gravitate towards the personal, but not only that, you then reflect on the person of the honorable member, and that is not allowed.
Maybe to answer you on that one, we all know that Mr. Deputy President is part of Loan Me.
I am speaking about an honorable member who is appearing and answering questions as a member of the executive of this government and not as a private person out there.
So, but how do you do that? Because he's
Honorable
attached to
member.
that one.
Honorable Member Mitiliani, please take your seat.
Maybe if you were to ask him to answer, maybe he was going to answer on
Honorable
that one.
Mitiliani, please take your seat. Honorable Mitiliani, please take your seat. Hlala phansi tata. Please take your seat. Honorable Mitiliani, I am instructing you to take your seat. Honorable members, is there any other supplementary hand? The Honorable Tau, the Honorable Smith, no. The Honorable Julius.
No, thank you very much, Chairperson. In the Deputy President's response to question 10, the C part of it, the Deputy President says, the information that he was provided with by the Minister for Economic Development confirms that the said company, for which the details have been furnished, has not been, it is not true. Now, the immediate thing that comes to mind would be that I would get a sense, which I would want to test with the Deputy President, whether if Parliament has been misled by the information that has been provided by the said member who asked this question, knowing very well that it is not true that this company has been investigated to that extent. Thank you very much.
The Honorable Tau wants to test.
Thank you. Thank you, Chairperson. As I said, I have been informed by the Minister of Economic Planning that according to their records, particularly the records of the Competition Commission, which falls under his purview of many activities, there hasn't been a price-fixing matter involving the said company. Now, that is the information that I have been provided with, and that is the extent, with the greatest respect, Chairperson, of my knowledge on this matter. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. The Honorable Julius.
Thank you, Chairperson. Private and public sector corruption has a direct effect on the poorest of the poor people in our country, and it also contributes to unemployment, especially of the youth in our country. Now, Honorable Chairperson, could the Deputy President respectfully please explain to this House how one corrupt body can hold another corrupt body to account? Wouldn't it just create more corruption? I just need to that answer. Thank you, Chair.
Honorable Deputy President.
Thank you, Chairperson. If the honorable member, in putting that question across, had provided a little bit of a context, a little bit of more detail and information, one would have been in a much better position to can answer. But if one says, if one corrupt body has to determine the corruption of another body, I simply do not know what he is talking about. So I am therefore not able to give any form of elucidation to the honorable member to this question with the greatest respect. Thank you.
Thank you very much, honorable members. That concludes the responses to question 12. And Honorable Deputy President, I want to thank you for coming to take questions in this House. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, thank you.
Honorable members, this concludes the business of the day. You are requested to remain standing until the procession has left and this House is adjourned.